Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Fireside Chat at start of Speedrun. We have Akshay Dipali today with us. Akshay is the founder at Eldren AI, and let's find out what that's about later on. I'm just going to jump in with the most important question I've had from to ask Akshay for a long time, right? Like, what are the first three things in terms of culture that a founder should do, and when should they even be even talking about culture, right, or even thinking about culture?
First of all, thanks for having me on here. I'm really excited to be here.
Cheers.
Yeah, we will talk about Elrin and what I do and how I got about it later. But to answer your question, uh, what are first few things that a founder should think about, and when is I think the founder should think about it the minute there is another person involved. So what I mean by that is if it's a solo founder, I am a solo founder, and if I'm working by myself, of course I have my own set of rules that are acceptable to me. But the minute I add a second person, even if it's a co-founder, even if it's someone who joins the team, right, I should start thinking about how the culture is going to be. So whenever that happens, and you said the first three things that come to mind
Yeah,
is so
first
one.
three culture decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. So one, I think the most important definitely is uh, how how the decision flows, right, in the organization. So when I talk about how the decision flows, it's more about um, who will take the ownership of what in the organization. I understand that as founders, we have to dabble in almost everything in the early stages. But at the same time, when we add more and more people, they will have an ownership of certain things within the organization, and how the decision flows, especially when the information is incomplete. So basically, if something has not been done, what happens then? What happens then uh, to the next steps? What is the strategy? Who is held accountable for that? Or do you take everything on yourself? That is number one. The number two is definitely what is rewarded, right? So this sets the right incentives in place. Um, are you and I'm definitely coming from the positive reinforcement thing, right? So do you reward the right things in the organization? People will thrive. If you reward the wrong things, or if you punish people in any way for the wrong things, you are actually giving birth to fear in the organization. And I think the last thing that matters is what really good looks like in an environment under pressure, right? So uh, culture is all well and good until things break. And once things break, excuse my language, but once shit hits the fan, that's when you need the culture the most. And if at that moment everything goes out the window, then you don't really have a culture. You didn't have anything in the first place. So yeah, these are the most important things according to me.
It's very fascinating because, like, where you started this conversation, right? Like the three things, very important. I agree with you, but like where you started, right? Like when you're a solo founder, when you're working alone, and a lot of people who are tuning in are like freelancers and just starting their agency or like just getting into entrepreneurship, right? Like, do you even think about like culture for one person companies? Because now also in a special unique sort of a scenario, we're headed in a direction where it's going to be one person with agents or AI, right? Like, and is there a culture setting system that's coming up over there? Because and just to set a little more context, I'm sure you've already seen Claude Bot and Molt
Yes.
Book, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that to me is agentic AI culture being birthed as we witness it, right? Like, so in that context, is is a solo person's culture basically the discipline that they set for themselves in their work? Is that where you would like classify it? Please Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Culture is, so if you think of culture as a fluff, then you will question that what is culture if there's only one person, right? But if you think of culture as a system, then yes, it's a discipline. And I think culture is a system with, and as you said, with more AI, and I did go through CloudBot, and it's interesting how AI agents are actually going on a rampage, talking about different things, taking over the world, becoming the overlords and all that. But in future, I think with more AI agents, there will probably be an AI people and culture officer. Who knows, right? But yeah, it's a system. It's a system. If you have one person, it's a system. Even if you have two people, it's a system. And with one person, the system is more discipline oriented, and once it's two people or more, it becomes discipline plus ownership oriented.
Right.
So that's how I think about it.
Who owns what and how are
Yeah.
they held accountable
Yes.
for in some
Yes.
sense? Very fascinating. Yeah, so let's talk about the title of the program that we came up with, right? Like, and what that really, really stands for, right? Like, and I think that like will involve with some definition setting that you'll have to do, right? Like, so
Yeah.
when we say that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Like, I guess the example you could give me is probably a more well organized and built up organization, right? Like, but how does this really play out, right? Like, how do we see, or what is an example you can give us where culture actually eats strategy for breakfast, right? Like, in
Yeah.
some sense.
Yeah. So I think culture eats strategy for breakfast when strategy is right. Right. If your strategy is fundamentally wrong, no culture can help it. I think I would like to get that out of
Yeah,
the way. Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's good grounding. Yeah, if
Yeah.
there's no, yeah, there's no, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
if my product doesn't even have a product market fit, if I'm not solving the problems that people and companies are going through in the first place, what is
Mhm.
culture going to do there, right? So I think culture uh, augments your strategy. It amplifies what you're doing, and it amplifies in such a way where you attract the right people in the organization as you grow. So yeah, and to answer your question, is when does the culture eat strategy for breakfast? And the one line answer is when the strategy is right. Right,
Right,
everything else, I don't think culture by itself can add any value otherwise.
right. Makes sense. Interesting. Okay, so obviously a lot gets passed around in
Yeah.
the name of culture,
Yeah.
right? Like, and also there is a lot of these myths that go around, right? Like, so do you want to talk us through some of the that's not culture, that is not what we mean when we
Yeah.
talk about culture, kind
Yeah,
of a thing?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah.
So people think that the perks I give is culture, right?
Hmm.
People think, oh, we have casual Fridays where people don't have to wear, formals. They can show up in shorts if they want to. Yeah, that's a part of culture, but that is not culture.
Right,
Culture is the inherent systems where, how you work, how psychological safe the organization is. Those things come in place. Yeah, I might show up in jumpsuit and t-shirt at work, but if if I have challenges at work and my boss is not available for me, my founder is not available for me, my manager is not available for me, what's the point of me showing up in any kind of clothing, right? What's the point of me in having any kind of perks? So yeah, I think that's the myth. When people talk about culture, they solve at the surface level. Oh, I'll give these perks, or I'll give casual Fridays, or we'll have I don't know. People are kind of forced to take part in fun activities, right? And if you have the right culture, people will willingly take part in those fun activities. Yeah, and that's something that I see the clients that I sold to. It's in Unfortunately, it is in the mentality of a lot of HRs as well that I see. Uh, but the good thing is that the new HRs that's coming up, the new CPOs or chief people officers that are coming up, they are busting this myth. So I'm happy about that too.
Right. So let's get down to brass tacks, right? Like you are starting a new organization tomorrow
Yeah, yeah,
with me. Lucky you.
yeah,
And and um, and we are the first two people working on it, right? Like, good thing is funding's in the bank.
yeah,
Okay, we've been lucky enough to do a tissue paper math in front of a VC, and then he signed a check for us. Okay,
yeah.
this is the context setting.
Okay.
What is our culture conversation look like when, like, okay, we've talked about our product that's done, right? Like, it's signed off, means
Yeah.
validated, check is in the bank, all of that is done, right? Like, now we're thinking of who's going to do what, and like, is it going to be two people company, when are we going to hire, like, all of these questions are starting to come up. So I guess this is the time when we start talking about the culture of the organization.
Yeah. So this is the time when we are building the product, right? Still building the
Yeah.
product and then we'll sell. So yeah, at this stage, the definition of culture changes. So in this stage, the culture is not about these values and all that. It is still about ownership that I mentioned, a few
Hmm.
minutes ago. But then at this stage, what really matters is speed, right? So we have to be able to learn faster, act faster, build faster, go to market faster. And where will speed come from? If it's just two of us, the speed will come from, you know, candor. Let's say, my job is to build a feature and I did a shitty job at it. Like, you should be able to, come to me and be like, Akshay, what's this? We need to do better, right? That candor without any consequence and speed is definitely, two things: speed and candor. And if I have to think about a third thing, if we talk about, culture is, we make sure that there is no politics played around, right? uh,
Hmm.
Even in two people I have seen politics happen, right? And that, in this case, the politics is ego, right?
Right, right.
You saying that I'm not doing these things or not delivering enough is you questioning my work. No, at the end of the day, if we align at that level, I think we should be able to call each other out. We should be
Hmm.
able to get that rectified, and we should be available for each other, right? So founder availability is important, candor is
Hmm.
important, and speed is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember advising a friend who's founder after 2.5 years, when the company was sort of stabilizing, just sort of lost interest for a bit because other things in life were happening.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was such a frustrating point for them, right? Like, when
yeah.
everything is going right and the founder is not available, is also a strange kind of a.
And yeah, and I have been in that situation
Oh,
where,
wow.
I have been ghosted on, right? And it's not a good thing, because when you are giving your 100%, you expect the other person to give their 100% as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. So, how did you solve that situation, or did that situation not get solved?
Yeah, I think that situation did not get solved. I had to just walk away. I wrote it off to my decision of not working with the right people. I
Mm.
became a better judgment of, okay, who should I work with. I started vetting people in a more proper way, that I know I can trust, that no matter what happens, I can speak to this person and that person can speak to me. So
Mhm.
yeah, in that case I learned a lot from the judgment point of view.
Interesting. So, my advice to the founder was open, like call and be very honest that you only want to have a conversation, right?
Yeah,
Like, no decisions made, just conversation. They did have a conversation. They both of them put down all their points to each other. They worked for 3 more months, and then the other person finally came back and said, it's not, I'm not able to do this. I want to go do something else. and he left again like properly.
Well,
So
closure is
yeah,
still a revolution, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So at least they got on that call. They
yeah,
got
yeah.
closure for each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Okay. I want to go back to our story, right? Like we start a startup day one. It's about speed. It's about candor. It's about clarity. Also, in a lot of sense, that I'll do this, so you don't have to do it. You do this, so that I don't have to do it. Right? Like kind of clarity and stuff like that. Okay. Cool. So we've got our first 100 customers now, right?
Yeah.
Like uh, it's not a good situation for just the two of us to be handling. There's
Yeah.
some technical responsibilities, operational responsibilities, and so we've started hiring. Right, like this first 2 3 people are in showing up to office and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
we are still in hiring. Right, like so we are very positive that it's going to get to about 8 or 10 people in a month or two, right?
Yeah.
So what's our conversation at this point as founders?
So at that point, I would still like to retain the clear ownership point of view, re-emphasize because you brought that up as well, right?
Mhm,
And then it gets about what we are rewarding. Again, to answer your very first question, the second thing that what gets rewarded. The small companies, let's say 10 people, 5 people, whatever we have, at this stage, the resources are still limited. We have a small number of teams. We need everyone to be at their best, right?
mhm,
So a lot of people at this time take the approach of work hard, play hard, right?
mhm,
And I may be contradicting a little myself here because I have done that myself. But with that approach, we are rewarding burnout at the end of the day, right? So, oh, you work hard, you put in more hours than that's in your contract, and then you play hard. I think rewarding burnout is the wrong thing to do. Instead, if we have the right cultures in place, right systems in place, where when we are able to talk about, look, these are the two big clients who are we are going to onboard, and there are certain requirements, and we are on clock, and we need the best that you have. Creating an environment where people actually put more hours by themselves willingly instead of us making them do it. I think that kind of reward is a lot more, I would say, or that kind of culture is a lot more rewarding, instead of you making people work more. So
mhm,
as we grow, I think one thing that I would think of is, what are the right things? What are the things that we're rewarding? Are we consistent with these rewards? Today we have 5 people, tomorrow we have 10, day after tomorrow we may have 100. Are we still rewarding the right things and the right people without making sure that the old people who have been with us since day one do not feel threatened with the new people coming in? So maintaining
mhm,
that consistency, making sure that everybody is valued equally, even if you're an old employee or a new employee, and creating that psychologically safe space where you can
mhm.
thrive and grow. Yeah. So that
Interesting.
is what I would do. Yeah.
So setting the right incentive structures,
Yeah.
and in some sense driving, basically the reward mechanisms should reward the right things,
Yeah.
right
Because
actions.
yes, because in the initial things, in the initial life, or when we are getting the first few people in, any startup would be giving ESOPs, right? So
Mhm.
we'll be incentivizing with ESOPs,
Right, right.
especially a venture-backed startup. You talked about, the VC has written the first check. We are growing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, if we are going to get ESOPs, we are going to hire right. We are going to make sure that the right people are rewarded in the right way. So yeah,
Got it. Okay. Tracking forward, right? Like
yeah,
hit $1 million ARR, great. And now we're like in growth phase, right? Like
yeah,
it's just sell, sell, sell. There's a lot of like feature requests coming in. Design team is like going crazy. Uh, Marketing team is going crazy. Everyone's going crazy, right? Like there's so much spends happening for growth right now. And so eyes on the prize in some sense, right? Like
yeah.
so how do you set and maintain culture in a space like that, right? Like
Yeah, so this is an interesting phase, right? In fact, I have helped a couple of companies, set culture value systems here. So this is
Mm.
where your value systems come in. So Pranav, you and me will decide, okay, what are non-negotiables for us, right? So certain non-negotiables are, hey, what I have seen across all my clients throughout the years is customer centricity is one of the things that are not negotiables, right? So
Right.
how you are talking to your customers. Some people have integrity, some people have accountability. I know these are just random words I'm throwing out here, but what are non-negotiables for us? And we create a value system out of it. Now, a lot of times, especially in corporates, these value systems become a poster on the wall. So
Hmm.
it would be our job to make sure that this is not a poster on the wall. And if we are growing, the eye is on the prize, we have 100, 200, 300 employees, we are going to have middle management. And I think the founder's job at that point is making sure that our value systems are implemented throughout the organization through the middle management, right? So recently, I'm actually speaking with a company here that has 3,500 employees, right?
Hmm.
It's a listed company in US, and they're a tech company, and their revenue is over $1 billion, so big.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
The founder shows up in monthly town hall meetings, and
Hmm.
that founder still, even after becoming big, being a multimillionaire, still focuses 20 minutes of that 1 hour talking about the values, what we did, how people are aligned, and things like that. So I guess the right people, the right founders will also leave that. And by the way, fun fact, the average life that a person spends once after joining the company is around 10 years. So you can't get people to leave in that organization. People stick with
Oh
you.
wow.
So
Oh
even with that,
crazy.
yeah, and that is across the board. That is in the tech team, in the operations team, in the management, in the sales may have, a little churn, as
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
know, right? But across the board, it's still
Wow.
that
Yeah.
is
That's
the number you aim for, right?
that is a testament in the
Exactly.
current day and age, right? Like
Yeah.
that is almost unheard of. I have not heard. I know one person, really. Like in fact, I can like, yeah, I know exactly one person who has been at one job for 10 years, right? Like I don't know anybody else in my age bracket, like even 5 years this way, that way, that has not skipped a few
Yeah.
employers here and there. Yeah.
No, that is actually so. In fact, let me tell you, I'm in the process of selling my product to them, right? So we are
Right. Right.
going through those meetings, and one of the meetings that we had just last week, we were just catching up before people were joining the room, uh, and she was my ICP, right? So we have been on a few meetings, and we were just,
Right.
having
Right.
a conversation. And she was like, "I think I consider myself an OG here. I've been here for 8 years." And then she retracted a statement. Actually, that won't make me an OG. Most of the people here, a lot of people here have been here for over 10 years. But
Wow.
you cannot get me to leave. I won't leave. I think I'll retire here. And that is a person who has probably another 15 to 20 years in her career. And
Wow.
that says something, right? That says a lot about how culture seeps throughout the organization. And yeah, and I think this goes back to your question, right? At that
Yeah.
stage, what are we thinking?
Yeah.
Every room that you go to, and the walls that they have, the glass, uh, you know um, those conference room that have
Yeah.
glass
Yeah. Yeah.
partitions,
Yeah.
everywhere they have put physical, I wouldn't call posters, somewhere it's stickers and all that, so that
Hmm.
what you really stand for never leaves your eyesight when you are there.
Hmm.
So I think that's very, very important, and I know it's very, very hard to do as you scale.
Fascinating. Uh, Let me share a small, maybe unknown fact about some work I did last year.
Yeah.
Um, we helped a listed company get their Great Place to Work certification,
No.
right? Like,
Awesome. Yeah.
uh, yeah, and we ran like a full on 3 months campaign, helping them, right? Like, and it was such an interesting sort of a conversation. And the reason I'm talking to you about this is like more because I want to double click on your, you said that they are my ICP, right? Like, I'm going to come back to this ICP point, right? Like,
Yeah.
so the interesting thing about that GPTW campaign was when we started the campaign, the HR leaders were not 100% sure if they'll get it or no.
Yeah.
And and in the first meeting, it was for me also to decide whether I want to like whether this company qualifies or am I going to run some like sort of a propaganda campaign to kind of get them to win this certificate, or believe that they're going to win this certificate, kind of a thing, right? Like, I don't want to do that. So we really double clicked on tell me some stories, tell me some stories, tell me some stories. And by the end of the meeting, they were able to pull out anecdote after anecdote after anecdote of like different leaders in different. So it was a case of a lot of the culture and the values actually translated and trickled down through the organization, but nobody is talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I guess, yeah. So then it kind of comes down to what you guys say on your website also, right? Like,
Yeah.
people are people listening first of all, and then if they're listening, then are they actioning on it, right? Like, so in that context, I want to ask you about your initial ICP that you planned for.
Yeah.
And is that still the same or is it changed or where are we at?
It is still essentially the same, but it has become more specific. So what I mean
Okay.
by that is, when we sell to culture, the initial ICP is HR, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but HR is broad. And when I started selling to HR, I realized that when we talk about culture, there are specific verticals within the HR. Of course, I will not talk to recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to do with cultures. They're only about hiring new employees. I would, but even CHRO is might not be the right. So CHRO is the person who chief people officer might report to, and chief people officer would be my perfect ICP. So
Mm.
CHRO would sign off on the project, but who would really own this? That is a chief
Mm-hmm.
people officer. Then it got more laser focused. So there is someone called people. There is a role called people analytics officer, who focus on people and analytics purely, data about how people are working, right? And they are even more specific. That's even more perfect. So in my case, my ICP was broad, that is HR, and with
Mm-hmm.
time, I narrowed it down. So now I sell to people analytics, CPO, and chief
Mm-hmm.
people officer. So these are my two direct ICPs right now. Of course, there are mid-sized organizations where there is no CPO, no people analytics officer. So then it's just the CHRO who does everything. In that case, I would be selling to CHRO. So it really
Mm-hmm.
depends on, okay, if it's a small company, I know these would be the titles making the decisions. If it's a little bit larger company, I know these are the people making the decision. But even if it's a larger company where we know there are about like 60 people in just the HR team, I know exactly who would be making, taking.
This particular decision, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, so we've talked about the founders. We've talked a little bit about like who your customer is and who you talk to. But I want to take a flip side to this before we get really into what you do and how Elrin solves these problems
Yeah.
of culture and things like that, right? Like, what I want to touch upon is on the other end of the spectrum, which is the person joining an organization, like the employee, right? Like,
Yeah.
when they enter, like, let's take a real profile. Let's take 2 3 profiles also, and you can tell me different things about them. When a pressure, right, like coming from like some kind of a college culture basically, is joining an organization and they go through that orientation program that most of these companies have, what should they be focusing on?
What should the freshers be focusing on, or the
Yeah,
companies be focusing on?
I want to talk about the freshers for a second. Like, because culture is a two-way street, I feel, right?
Yeah,
Like, you as a founder or an organization, you set up some culture and you want people to act in a certain way and things like that. But when and I know there's a very crazy job market out there right now, right?
yeah,
Like, so in that context, like, how does a person either choose to belong to a culture or like decide to filter themselves out in some sense, or yeah, or find a balance between I love this job but I hate the culture, and like, so how
yeah,
much should they be thinking about culture, and what is their context, right? Like,
yeah. So it's a very good question. So one, I think, is we have been hearing about this, and I'm sure Pranav, you have heard this from your founder friends as well, who are hiring young people, right? Gen Zs are kind of forcing people to rethink how everything works, right? Because
so one second,
yeah,
I'm gonna hold. That's is that fact or is it like, is it just something people are saying?
no, I think it's a fact, but I don't want to generalize that fact. I think there are a
Okay.
lot of people where Gen Zs come into the workforce with a certain mindset, right?
Hmm.
One of the clients that we have been around 20, 30 years in the business, and their biggest challenge was there is a disconnect between our old employees and the young employees who come in, because the young employees are mostly Gen Zs that we are hiring, and the old employees have their own set of ways. They, it's very professional, certain things that they won't do, they won't say. And you know how our previous generation, our parents generation was, right? So when you give your life to a company, it's like you're loyal to that boss, company, all those things. But I think the new workforce that's coming in, they prioritize themselves more, they prioritize what means to them more, and I think that's a good thing, right? So culture is in a way getting democratized now. You have to think of it, and I think that is where inclusion came from as well. How do you set policies where everyone from
Hmm.
every walk of life across different roles are happy? So if you ask me, what do freshers, young people, should look for, is definitely their personal alignment with the company's alignment, because now uh, you know small companies can give them amazing growth, right?
Hmm.
If they hit it right, they find the right company and they find the right role within the company, they will grow like anything with the company. Is that what they want, or do they want to join a big company where a little things are cushy, but then they will compromise on how culture works, how speed works, and all that? There will always be these two choices at the fundamental level where these young people go. But what I think, to answer your question, should be a non-negotiable for new people coming in and how they think about culture is basically, um, are my personal goals uh, aligned with the company's goals? What I mean by that is that, let's say I have my set of personal goals that I want to do professionally and personally, right? Will me working in this company get me there in the time frame that I want to get there, right? And this is when, in the initial stage, when they choose. About culture, there is nothing that they can do, right? They won't know how the culture is until they join the company and spend few months there. Now, you talked about great place to work. Great place to work certifications go a little way to actually show, oh, this workplace is great place to work certified. Then there are ENPS scores that a lot of companies actually put out to show their employee branding, how high the ENPS is and all those things. But other than that, at the initial stage, because they don't know how the culture is, their companies might be showing that, hey, we have all these goody things, but at the end of the day, it may not be like that. I think you should go in with personal alignment requirement that, hey, these are my personal goals. Will this company help me get there or not? And to speak to that, actually, if you know the famous quote by Peter Drucker, people don't leave organizations, they leave their managers, right? So that is very, very true. So you may join the best company out there, but if your manager is not right, you will start hating working there. And you will leave not because of the company, but because of that manager. So there are certain things that you can do that are in your control that you can check, but other things I think you will have to give it time. You can definitely speak with different people who have worked there. You can look at Glassdoor, reviews and all that, but that's about it that you can do.
So it's a finally it's an experience that they have that they'll have to decide upon whether it's
Yeah,
for them or not. Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a magic answer there. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, I wasn't expecting magic answer, but more so, I think you set the context right, right? Like, the expectation of fulfillment from work is much higher in the younger workforce who are entering
yes,
right now,
yeah,
as compared to our parents' generation. Fulfillment wasn't so much of a need; it was more of a we have to survive, so we're going to do
yeah,
this job and things like that. Not to say that the Gen Z don't have that fear, right? Like they've been through some of the worst times along with us, but that it's yeah, I agree with you. It's like a good thing to see that they're coming in and drawing these boundaries in the workforce. They're demanding for a certain number of certain amount of culture to be redrawn within organizations, right? Like I think they're doing a bang up job with it. I think that was a great time to ask you this question. How did you even get into all of this?
Oh, that is a story of my own that comes from a tragedy that I'm
Okay.
glad to share. So I have been a victim of bad culture in the organization that I previously worked at, and that kind of stays with you,
Mhm.
right? So culture is something. So let's say a bad thing happens to you. You can, with time, you can get over it. It's difficult to get over something. Uh, with respect to company culture, you probably even meet these people when you talk about bad culture. They will immediately remember times in their previous organization or their first job. Oh, it was horrible for me and all that. Bad culture never leaves your mind, right? It kind of sticks around. For me, it stuck around. It still is there. And the kind of experience that I had, without getting too much into it, was that it left a bad taste in my mouth, and I wanted to do something. Now, I'm not from the HR background, right? I don't know how cultures work, or I didn't know. Now I know. I didn't know how cultures worked and all that, who to approach, what to do in situations like that, how to even start having a great culture. So I think me being from outside of HR gave me an unbiased or first principles thinking on how to solve it. And I started with interviewing, and this happened during COVID actually. At that stage, I started interviewing HRs and CXOs from different companies and all that, right? And try to understand their part of the challenge, and also interviewing employees on how they feel about that. So even though my product is new, I have been thinking about it for 5 years now, right? And what what I understood was, under the name of employee engagement, most of the organizations are doing annual surveys, employee satisfaction surveys, and then there is a huge disconnect where 92% of the HRs don't even know, okay, survey is done, data is in, what do I do with it, right? They're
Oh,
not
wow.
equipped. Yeah,
92%.
yeah, and I interviewed around 200 odd people. It may not be in thousands, but in that 200, also a small subset, I saw that high number of people, 92%, excuse me, I didn't know what to do. And they ended up solving things at a surface level. And that seemed to be the problem, right? When I talk to employees, their biggest concern is, what's the point of filling the survey? Nothing happens anyway, right? So closing that feedback loop and going beyond surveys was important. By the way, in my previous company, I tried doing surveys and going all that. It didn't work out, right? And
Right.
rightly so. So, you know, how I had to rethink the problem. How
Mhm.
can we really understand how people are doing without surveys, or with limited surveys, and how, most importantly, we close the feedback loop. So that is what gave birth to Elrin. Like, okay, we have to keep this autonomous. We have to make sure that people are the way people work. We are able to grab signals from that and then close the feedback loop. Because in people's mind, nothing happens. We have to change that.
Mm.
Oh, s- things are happening. Even when I give feedback, even when I don't give feedback, things are happening. So that is what needed to change, and that is what we are building here.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go back one step before ka story, right? Like,
Yeah.
so before this terrible incident happened to you, which led you to make something awesome out of it, like Eldrin. What was life like? Where did you study? What did you do? How was childhood like? Tell us some
Yeah.
stories.
I, I had a pretty cliche generic childhood, to be honest.
What is
Middle
that
class
in India? Yeah.
middle class family, right? Middle class family. Mom is a housewife. Dad used to work. I used to go to school, come back home. Middle class family, education is very important. So study, work hard, things like that. Nothing crazy. My childhood was good, thanks to my parents, and it was good. With studies, I actually went. After 12th, I went to US to pursue my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I Now I know I'm not doing anything related to mechanical engineering, because that tragedy actually changed the course of what I would do in the years to come. But yeah, it has been very straightforward, man. It's nothing crazy. Although I have had experiences where life taught me a thing or two,
Mhm.
but apart from that, it was pretty straightforward.
So,
It's a very, very boring life.
so school, then college, mechanical engineering. You got a
Yes.
job.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part is that I'm a college dropout, so I didn't
Oh,
finish
okay.
my mechanical engineering. So
Acha.
I dropped out. I started my first B2C company,
Mhm.
and I scaled it to about. I actually bootstrapped it to like 50, 60
No, no,
lakhs.
1 second.
Yeah.
You're like, no, no, no. I'm not buying this. You're telling
Okay.
me simple, straightforward, boring, and all. No, 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 no. It doesn't sound like it. Hang on.
Yeah.
Why did you drop out of school, or like mechanical engineering? Like,
Yeah. So up until that point, it was straightforward.
okay,
My child growing up, right?
right.
Uh, After a dropout, where things got a little interesting.
Why
So
did you drop out, first of all?
I dropped out due to health reasons, to be honest.
Okay.
Okay, I had to come back to India, and
Hmm.
there was a plan to go back, but then, you know, in that 1 year of me getting well and going back, I started a B2C startup, right?
Okay.
And because I was bored, what do I do? Okay, I can't go back, and I can't just sit home watch YouTube videos.
Nobody ever in their life, I must point this out, nobody ever in their life says, I'm bored, let me start a B2C company.
So that's what I'm saying now, but that's not how it went. I was tired of myself just wasting time, and I wanted to do something, right?
Okay, so what was this B2C company? Where did the idea come from?
Actually, I wanted to do not s- yeah, sell subscriptions of
Okay,
books. So
okay.
basically the idea was, you give me the, like, so for example, I love murder mystery, right? I'm a huge Dan Brown fan.
Ah,
So
okay.
if I if if I select, okay, these are the things that I like, then the service will curate, okay, Dan Brown, Sidney Sheldon, Jack Reacher series. These are all amazing books for you, and it will send one book every month. And I
Mhm.
have a month. So it's basically bringing a curated library to you instead of you going to the library and picking books, right?
Right.
This was the idea, but then that didn't fly. And then I was like, you know what? Let me ask people what kind of subscription do they like,
Right.
and I had few categories. I had like books was one of them, a bunch of categories. Chocolates was one of them, and to my surprise, people voted chocolates the most.
Right.
And then what I started doing was the chocolates that you don't usually get, right? Like lint is expensive, 600, 700 bucks used to be
Yeah.
back then in India and all that. So if I cut the middle management, I could directly, give them international chocolates for a very reasonable price in India. And I
Mm.
converted that into subscription where you can subscribe to a service. You tell us what kind of chocolates you like, don't like dark milk, white, you have some allergies and all those things, and then we will send you curated chocolates every month at your doorstep.
Mm.
uh, this is what ended up doing, and uh, did this for 2 3 years.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, and
Wait,
bootstrapped
how
it
many
to.
subscribers did you grow it to?
It was in a few thousands for sure. So
Wow.
it was nothing crazy because it was bootstrapped, right?
Right.
So everything was. But fun fact, I
Mm.
found that my positioning was, look, you have relatives coming from foreign, and they bring you chocolates. Now you can have that experience without waiting
Wow.
for your relatives to go out and bring. But most of my purchases came from tier 2 cities, and it was never about you know uh, people getting exposed to chocolates. It was about
Mm.
accessibility.
Mm.
And then that changed my messaging. Right now, no matter where you are, and I ended up through the logistic partners serving over 15,000 pin codes. There is one incident where I have shipped a chocolate to such a small town in India, somewhere in the south. The person had to go to the courier center and receive, because that courier center was the last drop. They were not going to do a door delivery. So that person went to that and, uh, you know, uh, got that chocolate box and then posted about it. So yeah, I mean, it has been a roller coaster with that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So dropped out of college, came back to India, health reasons, started
Yeah.
a B2C brand, pivoted, turned it into chocolate subscription, grew it. Like that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
where, who told you you're boring? Right? Like,
Well, my childhood was pretty boring, I would say. It was just studies, me playing, going out to play. That's it. But after college, dropout,
mm,
that is when I started experimenting. Since then, I guess now it is not boring anymore. Now I
right.
get to work with amazing companies, work on a problem that I'm passionate
So
about.
why do you like why did you shut the subscription chocolate subscription business?
Honestly, we all know B2C is cutthroat, right?
Yeah.
It has low margin, right? I was
Hmm.
putting in more than 12 13 hours a day, and at the end of it I was not getting, because it was bootstrapped, it was more difficult, because it was perishable goods. I was not selling t-shirts, I was selling chocolates which are prone to breaking and melting and all that. It was even harder,
Yeah.
uh, right? So for me, that trade-off was like, for what I'm getting versus what I'm putting in was not right, right? So, and I started dabbling a little bit in software around that time,
Hmm.
and there were one or two projects which I did where I put in less amount of time, but the money that I got was nice compared to what the time
Right.
and money ratio in I was putting B2C. It only made sense for me to actually double down on what's working.
Right.
In, that so now the problem was, okay, now I know I want to do software. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept going back to the culture thing, and that's just like, you know what, I want to solve that problem. So
Mm.
let's start talking to people, and that is how I got into it.
Interesting. I think when I first met you, you were called, your app was called Nash.
That
Uh,
is the one that we shut down, right? Because the surveys didn't work and all that, right? So with Elrin,
ah,
we fundamentally changed things, how it works and all that. So we did that, but it didn't fly as such, so we shut it down.
okay. So Nash
Yeah.
was a product you made, and then
From the
you,
same problem. I'm still married
right.
to the problem. I'm not married to the product.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still married to the same problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it your wife listening in? Um,
She's not.
okay. Good for you, I guess.
Yeah.
But then this is gonna be out there, and then she's gonna hear this joke. She's probably gonna hate me more. Anyways,
That's why I'm doing this from the office.
I'll send her chocolates. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So still solving for culture. What are you doing now? And yeah, let's talk about Elrin for a second. What is finally? What is the shape and form of Elrin? How is that going?
Yeah, still solving from for culture, but we have taken a completely different approach. So the approach is now not reactive. So when you do surveys and there are um, you know insights, you are basically doing a postmortem, right? Things have happened, people have talked about it. Now you are sitting down why it has happened,
Mhm,
right? So we wanted to be more proactive. So lot of companies work in hindsight.
mhm,
Elrin is where what enables them to work in foresight. What are challenges that we can identify early and then resolve them um, without before they amplify into something big and expensive, right? So that is what we are focused on, and there is value in that, to be honest, because one disgruntled employee can ruin it for a whole lot other, and we don't want that. So replacing a disgruntled employee, replacing a low productive employee, replacing a continuously disengaging employee is very, very expensive, especially in countries outside of India. And it's cheaper for them to retain their existing workforce instead of replacing them if something
mhm.
goes. So the other question that I battled with is culture is so subjective. How do we make sure that we tie that to the outcome, to the financial outcome, right? So that is one thing that we wanted to do. We wanted to find a way to tie culture to the financial outcome, and that comes from some inherent things that how people work in the organization. And in fact, I published a paper in the scientific journal for that as well. So there is science that goes behind it, there is an organizational psychology that goes behind it, and there is a method that goes behind,
Wow,
which I published.
that is so fascinating. Tell me more about this paper.
So yeah, it basically talks about, I'll definitely send you the link for that. But it basically talks about uh, you know what are the components that goes in when an employee works, how those components work together, uh, and how all these things relate to the bottom line, the revenue of the organization. So what are the components? So basically, how is the relationship of a particular employee with their manager, going back to that Peter Drucker quote, right? Then how is the employee working with respect to other people? So by the way, there is something called organizational network analysis. What it
Mm,
says is, on paper, your hierarchy looks like a pyramid. There is a CEO, then it has VP, CXOs, and then people report to, and then management report to more people. That a pyramid looks like. But in reality, it works. People work as a network. I might be reporting to, let's say, Pranav, but I'm working with five people who are sitting around me, and
mhm.
how they work and how I work with them affects my work, even though I'm reporting to you. So in reality, it is a network. It is like an organism, right? And the scientific name for that is an organizational network analysis. So how do
Mhm.
we utilize that, combine that to certain components that go inside a culture, combine that to the value systems that each company has that uniquely. So every company will have their own cultural values and systems. How do we combine that and understand what culture means for this organization, each particular organization, and then tying that to the revenue? So that is what we have started doing with Elrin.
Very fascinating. I mean, I come from like branding design and comms, right? Like, so we're usually like somehow helping out some of the HR folks talk to employees. Employer branding as such is a terminology which is, I think, 3 4 years old in the mainstream. And is there a correlation? Is there like between understanding and grasping how these networks work within organization, and then how brands communicate values and things like that through comms, right?
Yeah, I am very sure there is a correlation. If you're talking
Right.
about communication, I know there is a correlation with how people work, the culture and the revenue. But I am absolutely sure there is a correlation with how brands communicate as well, internally and externally both.
Yeah.
Uh,
So and you're saying this is mappable now. The culture is mapped to revenue in some sense.
that is an attempt that we are doing, right?
Okay.
Where we can map. Now, you cannot directly map culture to revenue, but you can
Right.
map certain aspects that factors into culture to revenue. So, for example, what factors into culture? Again, as I said, the relationship between the employer and the manager, productivity, engagement, disengagement. These are the things that makes culture, right? If there is misalignment here, then there is lack of productivity, there is disengagement, and there is a math on how that affects the bottom line, the revenue of the organization. So right now, Pranav, if you know, many companies calculate revenue per employee. Uh,
Yeah.
so that is one of the things that we can say, okay, revenue per employee is here. But because disengagement is there, productivity is there, and it has been there for these
Mhm.
many months, there is a decline in 20%, 25%, right, revenue per employee.
Interesting. Very fascinating. So, okay, fine. So, you're trying to create this correlation so that, or like you're trying to understand if there is a correlation and a direct correlation and map it out. So, how does Eldrin do culture proactively then? Like, what's how does it play out for HR in a company?
So it understands how people work. So it integrates with the tech stack of the company. So if someone is working on with a project management tool, with CRMs, with communication tools like Teams, Slack, with email systems, with financial with HRIS systems, L&D systems. So Elrin can integrate with anything and anything that the companies are using, and then draw behavioral patterns from them. So as an employee, all you have to do is just show up at work and work how you do. There is no
Mhm.
interface for you, right? We still do have surveys, but then the importance of surveys or the dependency of surveys is not there anymore, like how Nash was or how most of the systems are. We completely scrap that. Now we want to understand at a behavioral level how people are working, and then uh, put algos to work and draw insights from that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how we are doing things now.
Fascinating. I saw something very extreme on this, right? Like, of course, like all technology is a double-edged sword, right? Like, uh, I don't know if I don't know how this plays out for you as such, but I'm going to touch upon something very controversial that I saw. I saw a cafe. It was a very regular, like barista-looking cafe, right? And they
Yeah,
had this like security camera, which
yeah,
was they had a security camera for the staff side, right? And they had an ML algorithm running, which was basically tracking who's doing what. And tracking their efficiency and so on and so forth, right? Like, and the algorithm was being constantly used to optimize performance, optimize efficiency in some sense. Not so much so to optimize, say, how much it was really trying to push each employee's productivity to the max, right? Like, where does your philosophy lie in all of this, right? Like as Eldrin.
Yeah, so we make sure that we are not reading the messages. If that's what you're asking, are we reading into
No,
the
no, no,
messages? Yeah,
no.
uh,
So, yeah,
yeah, in a
I
way, look, this
on
question
the
comes.
surface level, no, on the surface level, that's the question, right? Like that a
Yeah,
person is going to have. If it's a proactive system, then it's always listening, always reading, always analyzing, right? In some sense. So, is it going to be a snooping kind of a system that, in the hands of the wrong CHR or people officer,
yeah.
gets misused? Is
Look,
the question.
it's a very fair question. In fact, this is an objection that we get from our clients when we put this across. So, in our marketing material, also, we make it very clear that we don't read the content. In fact, the admins have the right to deny the content when we integrate. So, we don't integrate for the content, but it's eventually in their hands to deny the access to that. But what we do look at is metadata. That's all.
Mhm.
Can derive
Okay.
all this from the metadata. We don't need to look at what messages and what emails have been sent to what are people talking with each other. Remember that company that I told you about, thousands of employees, how they have, the
Yeah.
culture is still there. They are in fact in cybersecurity, one of their products.
Mhm.
So if they are looking into it, they are vetting us in the hardest way possible.
Right.
uh,
Right.
right? And Yeah, so we make sure. So to answer your philosophy, we don't want to have a big brother, big boss kind of uh, a position where you
Right.
know, yeah, we are looking at people. But what we want to do is go with empathy. We don't want to look at what people are saying. We just want to look at how you are working. That's all. And at the end of the day, the way our resolutions are placed is to help these people do better, right? We never use our system to raise a ticket or a complaint or an escalation to the HR team. It is always the resolution. In fact, if we identify that, let's say Akshay is not performing, the resolution goes to Akshay, not to Akshay's manager. So it always
Ah.
goes to Akshay first. So I am the first one to hear about, okay, this is where the misalignment is, and what can I do? The system tells that. And then if I am struggling even after multiple recommendations and suggestions, then and only then it goes to the manager, and that too is only to help me out, right?
Mhm.
So that is how we have designed the system.
Interesting. I think the key takeaway here is that, like, this is not some opportunity that you found and decided to exploit. Rather, like, you come from the experience, having gone through a bad experience, and you
Yeah,
think it's a organizational issue that can be sort of fixed, right? Like,
yeah, I am actually strictly against the former, right? Reading messages.
Mhm.
If I was an employee and have been an employee, I would hate if someone I found out, because I know companies, they use certain micromanaging tools where if your mouse is just still at one place for more than few minutes, it will start flagging.
Yeah,
So you need to keep moving the mouse. You need to keep changing the tabs. Needs
yeah,
to look
yeah,
like you're working, and I think that is very sinister.
yeah,
I would hate.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not a place I could see either of us working at for sure.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, so that's the thing, right? Like, yeah, that's the spectrum of people talking about culture, right? Like, because in some sense, I think that that's also culture that they are setting, right? Like
yeah.
that's the intention that the founder
It
is
is a
bringing
culture.
to that kind of
Yes.
an organization, right? Like, and I've actually been able to observe a lot of these bad actor companies, right? Like their product is faulty or like it's designed to be bad, right? Like, and you can see the layers in which it trickles down in, right? Like the salesperson lies to the customer, the HR lies to the employee, the manager lies to the their boss, and like it's the web of lies eventually, right? Like,
And that is the
um,
culture that that company has chosen, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It is a culture that I would not work in.
it works for some people clearly,
It works,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and if like a friend of mine joined this terrible place, he knew it from the interview, right? Like, where he was like, man, in 6 months I want to make a lot of money if I join this place,
Yeah,
right?
so
Like,
usually people do join places like that for quick money, right?
yeah,
And yeah, people do that. They don't expect fulfillment out of it. They expect
not at
money.
all.
But in places like that, so you think from the company's point of view, right? Their attrition is super high. People are leaving in 6 months.
Yeah, and I think it's
Yeah,
also by design in some sense, right? Like,
could be,
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I
like
think
the
there are some insurance companies designed that way. So I don't,
yeah,
yeah,
where you know you after a certain tenure they quote unquote can't afford you because you're so good at your job now.
yeah,
You're so good at selling the
yeah,
product that the incentives you're making is ridiculous, right? Like,
yes,
so it's a design to get people in, make that quick cash and leave, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah, it reminds me of a casino technically,
Casino,
right? Like,
yes.
where the house is constantly winning and you may get lucky
Yeah,
if you're a player, right? Like,
yeah.
walking in and out. Fascinating, interesting. Tell us more about like what you're excited about now. What is it that's keeping you up at night, or like what's getting you into office every
So
day?
yeah, I touched a little bit about it. So as I said, we are working on correlating culture to the revenue, right? That is what's keeping me up at night. So it's how do I do that? How do I do that in a methodical way, not in a subjective way? I want to be in a position where, look, for me as a position, as a company, I would be in the best position if I could say, if you get this culture, then this is the bump in the revenue you make. If I can claim that, and if I put my money where my mouth is, I can demand the money, as much money as I want, right? For the product that
Hmm.
I'm selling. But because culture is subjective, and how do I go there? Everybody acknowledges in this world that culture is one of the most important things a company can have. Yet there is no methodology, there is no proper tool to measure culture, right? If I tell you for any company, sales is the most important thing, which it is, and CRMs were not around, how do you even keep track of it? Yes,
Hmm.
Excel, but Excel is still a bare bone CRM,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So what gets measured, gets improved. So I don't think people have the right tool to, in fact, measure their culture. Many organizations don't even have the right definition of the culture. So it's a start. We start from there. We define the culture, we measure it, and then we improve it, and then we tie it to the outcome, to the revenue, in the most tangible way possible. And my
And
effort,
you're also doing it like from a very invisible point of view, I feel like from what your solution sounds at this point, since
it has
it's
to be that way. It has to be that way. If uh, you know in fact, there are many CRMs that are coming out that are autonomous. They will
mm,
understand what the deal size is, how the deal is going. They predict if the deal will close or not based on the email responses between the client and the salesperson and all those things. And then the CRM kind of ties the performance of that salesperson to the outcome of
interesting.
that sale, right? So something like that for the culture, right? Without, again, CRM now unfortunately reads the emails and the messages. We
Right,
don't
right. Has
have
to.
to, right? Yeah, it has to. We don't have to. So
Mm.
for
Yeah,
us,
but
it
then again, I think that when it comes to sales teams, the rules
are different.
get yeah are very different for that one team compared to every other team in the
Yeah,
organization, right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
so yeah, so I think even in that sense, uh, yeah, it's like so many things go haywire in a sales team, right? Like,
yeah,
and I wanted to ask you about, uh, you said this pyramid structure that is prevalent in corporate, right? Like, there are proposals of newer structures that keep coming up, right? Like, do you think, and like this is a first principles question actually, do you think that the fundamentally the pyramid is flawed, or like
Yeah,
and there's this new concept of like I want to touch upon some very popular like culture methodology, right? Like one of the things that's everybody's like raving about is the Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang.
yeah,
He has this like 50 people that report to him,
yeah.
so kind of a culture, versus you have the pods that are coming up, which are like kind of a thing. So what are your thoughts around this, right? Like really zooming out in like talking extremely philosophically, so to speak. Do you think that like the pyramid is bound to like is it symbolic like the Egyptian pyramid where like it's just going to be a monolith that we're going to look up to and wonder why it exists, or
I, I,
is it a question of the pyramid works, but it's if you do the culture right?
yeah, I think that is a part of it. The pyramid will work if you do the culture right. But it is also proven, by the way, this is not my observation. It is proven that, there is this famous company. I think it's a soup company. It's not Campbell's, but I think it's
Mhm.
a. They have plants, they have factories, right? And they have flat organization. There is no pyramid,
Mhm.
and they have been flat for many years, over a decade now. So a plant manager has everything, the whole say about that plant. Each
Mhm.
plant that they have runs differently because of the managers. Each business unit runs differently, completely flat. What they have done essentially is they have hired entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
And that works. Now, the Jensen Wang is also clearly working. They've
Mhm.
hired,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, I think it is as we go with time, the more people are going to be, more agents are going to come in, more people are becoming aware of how they want to work. They want fulfillment, purpose out of their work, and all those things. For me, I believe that going forward, you would want more entrepreneurs. You would want people who own stuff, right?
Mhm.
In fact, funny thing, Y Combinator has had, this is from last year. They want to see $100 million startup with not more than 10 people. There cannot
Mhm.
be a proper pyramid with just 10 people in the organization, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah. There's
it's incomplete. Yeah.
yeah.
So if you can reach 100 million with just 10 people, which is now possible, then eventually pyramid may not look like a pyramid. It will probably
Mhm.
look like a bunch of parallel lines with, lines crossing here and there, because there
Right,
needs to
right.
be a cross functionality element in the organization. But I think people will own verticals. People will be entrepreneurs. People will start making decisions on their own, and then someone will still sit as a CEO at the end of it all, if it is still a human and not an AI agent who's the CEO, who will eventually make decisions. At that point, I think the CEO's job will be to be held accountable when things
Mhm.
go wrong, right? You are not going to hold
Interesting.
a, let's say tomorrow, if an agent goes haywire and crazy, you're not going to hold a middle management accountable. You're going to hold that CEO of that company accountable.
Right.
So keeping that in check, keeping the policies in right, making sure the compliance stays and all that, I think that is where the CEO's role will go eventually.
Interesting. I want to get your take on jobs and AI in
Yeah,
general, since you
I,
work very closely with like
yeah.
HR folk. Yeah.
I don't buy that, AI will take over the jobs. I am in that bucket where people think that a industrial revolution, when it happened, people thought these machines will take over the job. But no,
Yeah.
there you still need people to run those machines. Similarly, now look at tech roles. Most of them have become AI roles. So it is not
Mhm.
about creating the software. It is developing the AI. A lot
Just
of
the
them,
language has changed.
you will still create software, but it will be for AI and things like
Yeah.
that, right?
No, I forget who. I think it was Andre Karpathy who said that like the hottest new coding language today is English, right? Like
English,
so,
yes, yes,
so it's the tech job hasn't gone. It's just like you're not writing in like C or Java or something. You're just writing
yeah,
in English.
yeah, and people do, like with all the layoffs that's happening because of AI, right? I, a part of me thinks, is it? I'm sure a part of it is AI, but is it only AI? I don't know because
Yeah.
yeah,
No, so there's something to be talked about company cultures with this, right? Like a friend of mine from the Valley mentioned that like the organizations are using AI as the excuse to do layoffs which are already planned.
exactly. You never know it, and it is, we can only contemplate from outside, right?
Yeah,
But if you remember 21, 22, the job market was crazy. People were jumping ship with 300%, 400%
yeah, yeah,
hikes and all that. Maybe this is a correction. I don't know. But overall, and a part of it is AI. Could be AI. I'm
yeah.
not the one to say. But I definitely think that towards the end of it, maybe, it is a mix of AI. It is a mix of them correcting. It is mix of, you know, them maintaining the share price and
Mhm.
inflating their profits before the next quarter comes in, or it could be anything, right?
Right, right.
So I don't want to attribute it to just AI, because on one hand we are, people are losing jobs to AI. On the other hand, we are like, AI is still not there yet. AI is still 75% accurate, 80% accurate. So which means you are losing 25% accuracy and productivity to AI, and how can any company be okay with it, right?
Yeah,
There needs to be some form of QA QC check. You cannot just lose a job to AI.
interesting. Very interesting. Okay, I have one question which I think a lot of people are asking uh, from founders like you, and it's a
Yeah.
two-part question, right? Like, one, how did you crack B2B enterprise sales,
So
right? Like
yeah.
that's I think as much as I know it's different for each product. I wanted to get your story on how you went about it.
I don't think I've still cracked it. We are still a startup, to be honest.
Right.
But I have had initial wins, good wins,
Okay.
in fact, right? And I'll tell you, how we did it. Uh, Failed first few times, to be honest, because in when you're in sales, you tend to sell instead of understanding the challenges. So
Mhm.
it's like, hey, I have a product that does this, and I can help you like this. Buy it. Clearly, that doesn't work. B2B sales work the best when you act as a consultant. We understand their problems. That is where the discovery part comes in, right? So you understand what
Mhm.
really, why are they on the table talking to you in the first place. Understand that, instead of being happy, oh, this person is on the table, this person has the right to buy my product, let me sell. So understand that, and then after I, understanding that is, I think, the most important part. Then connecting what really matters to them with the product demo. So when I'm giving the demo, the verbiage that I use changes to, okay, for this person, attrition is important. So when I'm giving the demo, I do talk about how this will help improve their attrition. And it does, I'm not lying. But I'm emphasizing what really matters to them. And then I think one of my friends actually told me when I was struggling with sales initially, he was successful in sales, right? So I went to him and I was like, how are you getting clients, right? What am I doing that is not right? And he said one thing, that you have to give confidence to your clients. You cannot just barge in like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Have a method, have a discovery, and all that. And where does confidence come from? It comes from little things. Send minutes after doing this. If you're sending a proposal, don't write it in a mail or in a uh, simple in wordings in a one pager and send it. Create like what are you doing, how are you solving this problem, who are your clients, what are the numbers, add that, and then make add that context, and then write the come to proposal point. These are little things that gives confidence. Like, talk about the trust and governance of, when you're selling. How companies would like to know how we handle the data. Talk about that even without them asking about it. So giving confidence, offering, information that they didn't ask for, but it is somewhere in the back of their mind, or they would be like, oh, I didn't even think about it. Good that they're prepared for it. I think that solved, sales cycle are still long as hell for me, right? Especially if it's a larger organization. But answering one objective at a time, giving confidence to them every step of the way is what helps. So yeah, if you're talking about lead gen, that's a whole different thing. How we, get leads and all that. That's a
That's
whole
the follow-up
follow-up
question,
question.
right? Like, yeah.
Well, ask me that question. Do you have any specific, or do you just want to have?
Yeah, like okay, you told me about like how to once I'm in the room, how do I build that confidence and trust, and like and then maybe the sale happens, maybe that's okay. But like without this, there's definitely the sale is not going to happen. That's what I
Yes.
learned from this. In terms of lead gen, what all did you do? And I'm equally interested in things that didn't work for you, and I want to know finally what figured out, because I know it's not a linear journey, right? You don't like wake up one morning and put $1,000 in Google Ads and suddenly you have like 10 customers. That's
Yeah.
not how it, like,
Yeah.
Twitter wants you to believe that, but that's not how
Yeah.
things work, right? Like,
Yeah, I know. Everything that can go right is going right with everyone else on Twitter, except
yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Uh, so lead gen, honestly, there are a bunch of things that I have done. What has not worked for me is the content, right? So if my content is very similar to my competition, then the people that who are reading my content, they are like, I already have this. Why do I need to even give this person time? We are happy with what we have, right? So the content was where I messed up a lot, because I was like, hey, we have what you have, but better, and that is not enough to move the needle. Um, I needed to talk about values. I needed to talk about, at the end of the day, what will you get and how we will get you there and in what time. That needs to be. So even if you go to Elrin AI, right, the very first thing, I guess, I talk about ROI. I talk about ROI delivering culture on autopilot. So I'm kind of hitting the language, right? Okay, this is, I help you build culture that delivers ROI, right? And then it is on autopilot. You don't have to do anything. So I have taken an approach where in one line, I'm telling them what I do, how I do it, and how I'm differentiating people or myself from the other solutions in the market. About the lead gen efforts, one thing that has worked well for me is channel partners. So definitely go out and look for people who connect with what you do, who align with what you do. They have certain connections in place, and then don't shy from sharing revenue from them, because at the end of the day, they are saving you that marketing dollars, ad spends, and all that goes into them. Finding the right channel partner is very, very, very important. And I don't have a lot, but I'm building one channel partner at a time. And why it works best is because you take one to many approach, right? One channel partner, you have an agreement, and how you work. That one channel partner will sell to many, right? So if you have like these multiple of them, then you essentially you have like a sales force, not even on your payroll. You're not even paying them anything, but you are keeping them happy with the services that you provide, with the revenue share that you provide, and all that. The other thing that has, other things are like outreaches. I have done Apollo LinkedIn outreaches. I have done direct LinkedIn outreaches. They have worked for me. In fact,
Mhm.
I closed a big name client in India purely through Apollo email outreach. It took me 7 months to close, but it was through pure outreach. I have not spent any money on ads yet. Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe I will try that next. We'll play around.
Interesting. Interesting. So, uh, the thing that I'm curious about is, what does 7 months lead cycle look like, right? Like, uh, yeah, you walk us
Yeah,
through, like, because I think that's a marathon in itself, right? Like,
yeah,
in some sense, like, you need to be prepared mentally and physically to deal with that. So, what does that take?
yeah. Well, uh, it started with Elrin. It started from day one, like the first month when we incorporated Elrin, right? Since then, I ran this campaign, and it took 7 months for me to go there. 6 or 7 months, yeah. So it it depends on how the sales cycle is on the client. In fact, who are the stakeholders involved. With this client particularly, it was like, hey, we are looking at multiple vendors. You're not the only one. They made that clear. They had set of expectations. Then it was about, they had multiple rounds, multiple stakeholders joined in each round, and then they dialed it down to five. Then they dialed it down to three, and then it was like, okay, give us the final proposal with your best pricing, best benefits, what you can do, service structure, and all that. And we had to give a detailed proposal for that. And then it's not in your hands. Then they won't negotiate. They negotiated after a certain point, and after that, it's just okay. Then out of those two, three proposals, we will choose whichever one is there. Fortunately, in that case, they chose us. And yeah, and then we are about to start working with them now. It
So,
took
so the email campaign part of it was what? You sending a bunch of emails to different clients, and then from one of those, something triggered, and you
that's
got
what we did. Yeah.
somebody responded. You responded to that email, and then they set up a meeting at some point, or they got, and from there on, it took like 5 6 months, is what you're saying, like, or the seven
Yes.
months. Okay,
Yeah. Seven. This is the seventh month where we will start working with them.
okay,
Yeah. So technically it took 6 months to close them.
okay,
Seventh month is when
right,
we onboard and start.
right. Interesting, very fascinating. Uh, yeah, I think you covered everything at this point. Like, I think it's been a
Amazing.
good 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I had fun. It was very nice to talk about stories. And you had some really good questions. Some questions that people have not asked me at all, and made my mind think a little bit as well. Really good questions. Thank you for having me here, Pranav.
thanks, yeah, Akshay. I like it's. I don't know. I guess it's been like sort of serendipitous meeting you
Yes.
on a WhatsApp group of all
Yeah.
things, and just sort of being in touch. And it's good to see your journey. It's like been excellent talking to you and learning about culture.
Thank you for having me. It was really
Yeah,
nice talking to you, and all a lot of answers and questions are in my mind because I'm the one building this product, and there are some questions I ask myself. But thank you for asking me those questions, because this is how the word gets out. This is how I get to talk about this. I'm very passionate about this, and you gave me a platform to talk about it. So thank you
yeah.
so much. Yeah.
I'm more than excited to hear about your passion, right? Like, it's so encouraging to find founders who, like, I don't care about anything else. I'm gonna solve this one way or another, right? Like, and
Yeah.
kudos to you for doing it at scale, right? Like, I really hope everything pans out for you. Totally
Thank you. Yeah.
bullish on Eldrin and you more than anything
Thank
else.
you so much, Pranav.
We
Thanks a
shall
lot.
catch up soon. Thanks, Akhilesh, Pallavi, and Rama for sticking
Thank
by
you.
to the end of the
Yeah.
conversation. Cheers, guys. Much
Cheers,
appreciate.
cheers, cheers, cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Just,
Thank you.
do you want to share something, Rama, before we jump off?
Yeah, was interesting, right? Vince, as a co-founder, I run my SaaS, correct? So interesting discussions on sales, how we are utilizing Apollo. Apollo is like it's a nerve system today.
Yeah,
What we use, especially with the India market, yes, it takes 7 months to close a
yeah.
deal.
There's yeah, that's a hot take for sure. But well received, Rama. Thank you so much for sharing with
Thank
us.
you, Rama. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, man.
Cheers. Cheers. All right. Thanks everyone for joining this fireside. Please stay locked with Startup Speedrun on Luma on the Clean Design Company website. We have a lot more of these coming up. The next week we have Neha Nambiar joining us. She's a travel influencer with I think now 80,000 plus followers on Instagram. She's going to be talking about how to dominate Instagram and actually building a distribution channel. So it's good for me, probably good
Well,
for you
good for
guys
me
too.
as well. I'll need that. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So please join us next week. I think it'll be Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. India time. So I'll send you the recording, Akshay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, recording. Yes, please. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you,
All right.
Pranav.
Cheers. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Cheers, man.
Bye bye.